Canada had scored 3 goals in its entire Men's World Cup history. Then, in 90 minutes against Qatar, they scored 6. After 36 years of waiting, Canada finally had its first victory, and Jonathan David, born in Brooklyn, raised in Haiti, and shaped in Ottawa, had only begun writing history. Every Canadian supporter understood what the night carried. The tournament record still showed 7 matches without a victory. The 1986 team had left without scoring. The 2022 team had entertained people, frightened Belgium, scored against Croatia, and still lost every match. Even the opening game of 2026 had brought relief rather than release. Hi, this is Cyrus Fernando with FNTG, from nothing to glory, which finds a human side within the story. Canada drew 1-1 with Bosnia and Herzegovina in Toronto. Carl Laurent came from the bench and scored the equaliser, earning the country its first Men's World Cup point. But a draw does not remove 40 years of waiting. It only proves that the next step might finally be possible. The 6-0 victory over Qatar was that next step. It does not feel like Canada had entered a new tournament. It felt like Canadian football had entered a new life. To understand why, go back to Mexico in 1986. Canada arrived at its first World Cup with a squad that had fought through football landscape, offering little money, little attention, and few established pathways to the elite game. The opening match was against France, the European champions. Canada held Michel Platini's team for 78 minutes before Jean-Pierre Papin scored. France won 1-0. Hungary then won 2-0. The Soviet Union won 2-0. 3 games, 3 defeats, no goals. Then Canada disappeared from the World Cup for 36 years. That absence shaped how generations experienced the tournament. Canadians watched through inherited loyalties. Families wore the shirts of Portugal, Italy, England, Croatia, Nigeria, Brazil, Argentina, and countries their parents or grandparents had left behind. The World Cup was everywhere in Canada. Canada was simply not in it. Then came Qatar in 2022. Alphonso Davies scored after 68 seconds against Croatia, heading its first Men's World Cup goal in Canadian history. For 1 minute, the wait felt finished. Then Croatia scored 4. Canada also lost to Belgium and Morocco. It returned home with 2 goals, 0 points, and the familiar consolation that the performances had been better than the results. That is why hosting in 2026 intensifies the pressure. Canada also no longer satisfies merely to appear. This generation had already reached a Copa America semi-final. Davies had won the Champions League. Jonathan David had scored across Europe. Laurent had become the national team's record scorer before David passed him. The last thing Canada needed was another tournament remembered mainly for being competitive. Against Qatar at BC Place, the release began in the 16th minute. David's first effort was saved, but the rebound fell loose. Laurent reached it first and drove the ball into the net. 1-0. He turned towards the stands and placed his hands behind his ears. Listen. The noise inside BC Place was the sound of 52,497 people realizing that history might not require patience anymore. 13 minutes later, Tajon Buchanan delivered the ball towards David. Canada's all-time leading scorer met it and finished 2-0. For David, the goal carried its own release. His scoring record for Canada was unquestioned, but his previous goal from open play had come more than a year earlier. The forward Canada trusted most had chosen the country's biggest night to return. Then Qatar lost control. Homan Ahmed brought down Buchanan near the edge of the area. The original decision was a penalty and a yellow card. Video review moved the foul outside the box, but changed the card to red. Qatar were down to 10. Before half-time, David scored again. 3-0. Canada had entered the match with 3 goals in its entire World Cup history. By the interval, it had already matched that total in 45 minutes. The first victory was coming. The only question seemed to be how long it would become. Then the celebration stopped. Early in the second half, Asim Mabido challenged Ismaël Koné from behind. Koné fell immediately. The players closest to him understood the seriousness before the crowd did. Teammates gathered around him. David looked shaken. Medical staff stabilized Koné's left leg before carrying him away. The injury was later confirmed as fracture requiring surgery. His World Cup was over. Mabido's card was upgraded from yellow to red. Qatar were reduced to 9 players, but the advantage felt almost irrelevant. Canada was experiencing the greatest result in its men's football history, while one of the players who helped build it was leaving for hospital. Nathan Saliba replaced him. 6 minutes later, Canada won a free kick. Saliba drove the ball through the wall and into the goal. Then he ran towards the bench, lifted Koné's number 8 shirt, kissed it and held it towards the crowd. 4-0. That was the emotional centre of the night. Not the hat-trick, the red cards or the final score. A 22-year-old entered because his teammate had suffered a broken leg, scored almost immediately and made sure the celebration belonged to the player who was no longer standing beside him. The 5th arrived through the own goal from Mohamed Al-Mane. In stoppage time, David completed his hat-trick. 6-0. Canada's World Cup goal total had moved from 3 to 9 in one match. David became the first Canadian man to score a World Cup hat-trick. Laurent had scored in consecutive games. Saliba had turned an emergency appearance into a tribute. Canada had recorded the largest World Cup victory by a CONCACAF nation, and it had done it without needing Davies to leave the bench. The easiest way to explain Canadian football was to point at Alphonso Davies, the refugee who became a Bayern player, the fastest player anywhere, the face of the generation. Against Qatar, Canada showed the story is no longer carried by one man. Laurent opened the scoring. David took command. Buchanan created danger. Saliba answered tragedy. Steven Estaquio controlled the midfield. Jesse March's team kept attacking after the result had already been secured. Davies watched, Canada grew. This is what a football country becomes. Not one superstar surrounded by hope, but a structure deep enough to survive when the superstar is unavailable. There is another reason the night mattered. This Canadian team looks like the country it represents. David was born in the United States, spent his earliest years in Haiti, and grew up in Ottawa. Davies was born in the refugee camp in Ghana to Liberian parents and raised in Edmonton. Laurent grew up in Brampton, in a Jamaican-Canadian family. Koné was born in Côte d'Ivoire and developed in Montreal. Their paths are not identical. That is the point. For decades, Canadians often carried their family histories into the World Cup by supporting another nation. This generation has given those same families a Canadian team that reflects them back. The children watching now do not have to borrow somebody else's football history. They watch Canada make its own. 3 questions now hang over what comes next. Can Canada recover emotionally and tactically without Koné? Can Davies return strongly enough to change the level of the team without disrupting what worked against Qatar? And can this first victory become the beginning of a run rather than the emotional summit of the tournament? Canada is not through to the knockout round yet. 4 points put it atop Group B, on goal difference, level with Switzerland. A draw in the final group match would secure qualification. That game will reveal something the 6-0 could not. Qatar gave Canada space, lost 2 players and collapsed. Switzerland are unlikely to offer the same kind of night. Canada will have to manage tension, protect the ball and decide whether to chase first place or protect the point it needs. History has been made. Now history has to be handled. Prime Minister Ismaël Koné watched from the stands beside FIFA President Gianni Infantino. After the match, he entered the Canadian dressing room and spoke about the character the players showed after Koné went down. That was the right message. The scoreboard explained what Canada achieved. The response to the injury explained who this team had become. 40 years earlier, Canada left its first World Cup without a goal. 4 years earlier, it left Qatar without a point. Now, in Vancouver, it scored 6, produced its first hat-trick, claimed its first victory, and moved within 1 result of the knockout stage. The final whistle did not erase the lost decades. It gave them an ending. Canada had spent most of its World Cup history waiting to belong. On June 18, 2026, the country stopped waiting. In the next videos, we are covering more stories as the World Cup group stage begins deciding who stays and who goes home. Before you go, grab the free Smart Fan Toolkit in the description. It's everything you need to plan your World Cup. It's free and the link is down below. And if you want to understand how this World Cup is taking shape tactically, which teams are adapting, where the weaknesses are, and what could decide the next round, FTG Intel has a full breakdown. Click it on your screen right now. So Canada fans, answer this honestly. Was the victory already the greatest night in the history of the men's national team? Or does this generation still have something even bigger waiting? I'm Cyrus Fernando, this is FNTG, from nothing to glory, and I'll see you soon.